Well, welcome everybody to the online program for the alumni of the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in beautiful Powell River, British Columbia. Thought I'd change things up, right? Give you a little different backdrop. Wearing my Mr. Rogers sweater. But it's December, so the holidays are coming. So this online program, I think we'll spend the next 4 weeks talking about how to keep you safe over the holidays. And I think one of a very interesting thing that we've discovered in psychology may help you out on this one, okay? It's called confirmation bias. And to give you some background on this, a few years back, psychology had what it called the cognitive revolution. Cognitive just means how you process stuff in your brain. All right. Now, the textbooks used to say, well, think of your brain like a computer, right? So there's this input comes in from the outside world, it gets processed, and then you spit it out. Which was an interesting idea, except for the fact that computers are very logical. They operate on principles of zeros and ones and all that kind of stuff, right? People, it turns out, are not logical at all. And one of the things that we discovered is that when people survey information around them or information coming in, they are very selective in what they're going to listen to. And in fact, even go out of their way to discount information that, yeah, they may not happen to like. And this principle of human nature is what we call confirmation bias. That we will latch on to information that supports what we already believe. It'll support our attitudes, it'll support our behaviors. And in fact, what would we get really skeptical about information that does not support our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors? Okay, so that's confirmation bias. And this is, as I said, it's a property of human nature. It's not good or bad, right or wrong, it just is what it is. Okay? Now, the holidays are coming up. It's going to be lots of drinking, lots of parties, lots of people singing and dancing and having a good old time, because that's what they do at the holidays. Even family coming in from out of town, time for a party. Okay? And we know from experience that a lot of people in early recovery might start like thinking about this stuff, right? And they may start thinking, well, you know, oh gosh, geez, all those people having a really good time, and gee, I'd love to join in with them, right? And even though, you know, they've just gone to treatment and they understand that the environment is a very dangerous place, they'll start thinking about things. Now, if you were a part of a 12-step program or, you know, treatment based on that, you might have heard it being called stinking thinking, or, oh, you're just being an addict, or, you know, something along that lines, which, you know, has an element of truth. But it's got more to do with this idea of confirmation bias, this natural human tendency to be very selective about information. If you want to call that stinking thinking, go ahead. Personally, I just think it's a property of human nature. Okay? So, if you start thinking about this, right, you could run into trouble, all right? One of the most obvious examples I can give you this, because it even happens with the clients here, as you all know because you were clients here, right, is, and again, not all the clients, but some of them, will sit through drugs in the brain workshop, right, where they will discover that addiction is not in the drug, it's in the person. Right, we make this very clear. I think we take like 6 different approaches to it, but it's basically the same concept. Where they've heard that trying to pin your addiction to your drug of choice is basically the last desperate gasp of the addict to keep using but just not suffer. And so scientifically, and we don't invent anything here, we're just the messengers bringing you the scientific information. So we give you all the scientific information from all of these geniuses working in research. And still, regardless of all that scientific information, a lot of clients start thinking, well, you know, I hear all that, but, you know, I never had a problem with booze, right? And I never had a problem smoking a joint. So I came to get over my addiction to cocaine. So that's, and the way I make sense of it is, as long as I can never do cocaine again, I'll be fine. But I perfectly expect to go out and drink and stuff like that, right? Now, if you're being incredibly logical, if you were a computer, what you would actually have to say is, well, I've heard all this information from the scientists at Johns Hopkins Department of Neuroscience, and I've heard all this information you've given us from the Harvard University Medical School, and I've heard all of this statistics and everything that have come from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, but frankly, they're all wrong. And I know they're wrong because, you know, my Uncle Harry used to have a cocaine problem, but, you know, I've seen him, like he has a few beers now and he doesn't seem to have a problem, right? That's confirmation bias, right? So I am willing to latch on to Uncle Harry, this one single human being, as being more accurate, more truthful about the nature of recovery than I am about all of those scientists who have produced thousands upon thousands of studies showing that addiction is not in the drug, it's in the person. Okay? So when you think about it, it's actually kind of amusing. But as the holidays approach, I suspect that a few of you may start thinking about this. You may start thinking, well, God, geez, you know, it'd be really good to go out there and have, you know, a few beers, because, I mean, look at all of them. They look like I have a really good time, right? So at any rate, during this month, we'll give you a few tricks that you can use to deal with this confirmation bias, this natural human tendency to latch on to information that you believe supports your preconceptions. And then the idea that you become very skeptical about information that does not support it, right? And the first step is always awareness, to be aware that this may be going on for you, okay? And during the rest of our time on the online program this month, we'll help you with a few other details along the way so that if you start thinking that way, you'll be able to get out of it. At any rate, that's it for this week, and we'll see you again next week.